Brighton through to the fifth round of the FA Cup after a 2-1 victory against Chelsea, despite falling behind in that game after a Bart Verbruggen mistake. Again, we talked about VAR and what was missing and what isn't, but there was hints, certainly, of a handball in the build-up to the winning goal by Karim Mitoma.
Yeah, but you need a bit of luck, and I actually thought it was a good performance. I mean, it was a sloppy start, of course. Verbruggen's mistake doesn't help and kind of sets everyone back a little bit. But once they recovered from that, I thought Chelsea were poor. If Cole Palmer's not at his absolute best, which he's maybe not been in recent weeks, and teams are going to target him in particular because you can tell when Chelsea are good, it's because he's really involved and showing his quality. When he's not as involved, they've looked quite poor. And they've struggled. You know, Jackson's gone off a bit of form, and Nkunku played and is not quite getting there yet. Brighton took advantage, and they still continue to play such a great style of football, Brighton, and they've got quality players, of course they have, but they didn't have to do a lot yesterday, actually, Brighton, to win the game, which is really the big disappointment from Chelsea.
But this has been a concerning run now for Chelsea. And if we look at their last 10 results, just 3 wins in their last 10 games, is there a consistency in terms of the failings during this period that you've been able to see that there are certain things which keep happening from a Chelsea perspective?
Defensively, they're not brilliant. I think he's really struggled to get the consistency in the back line. The goalkeeper's clearly an issue, and that's becoming worse because you can tell his confidence has been affected. And Jorgensen has come in and had his opportunities also. And with Cole Palmer going slightly off form, it's almost been as simple as that. Obviously, Lavia, I think, makes a big difference also. He's another player that can't stay fit. I think when he's in that midfield, he gives, I think, a lot more freedom for a Palmer, for an Enzo Fernandez, for the forward players. The way he plays in midfield with Caicedo, I think he is actually a key player. And when he's played, I've been very impressed with the setup of Chelsea's midfield. But, you know, even Leicester had these periods in the Championship. Leicester had, their supporters were getting a bit disgruntled with some of the performances because of the way Maresca likes to play, and there can be lots of play without anything actually happening. And then against the better sides, who can then cut through you, and if you're not keeping clean sheets, it's just a difficult situation. But I thought they kind of jumped above maybe where they were at the early part of the season.
So in terms of what they would need to do then to get themselves to the next level, it was interesting, he said yesterday, I said to the players weeks ago and said again, as a team, we need to learn to win games 1-0. That is what big teams do.
Yeah, so he's talking about that defensive mentality as a team, stopping the opposition, because he knows he's got the quality. He's used the squad really well in all competitions, and you know, ultimately it's now about the detail, isn't it? It's about he'll want consistency in terms of injuries for that back line and Lavia, and then he'll want more consistency from his players, because one week you watch Chelsea and go, I've been really impressed with them, the way they've played. The next week you almost can't recognise the same team, the same players. I'm afraid, time for him to bed still in his style and to make sure his top players stay fit.
Just on the point about becoming, I guess, more street smart and winning more games 1-0, it felt like a conversation that we had towards the start of the season, that because it's such a young squad, as you said, time and learning is the only... They're not going to suddenly wake up one morning and be the finished article, because there are a lot of young men there. So because Chelsea have invested in this project of buying talented, very young players, that these periods are going to happen. And ultimately, he was right when he kept saying for a little period when they're in form, we're not good enough to win the Premier League title.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting at the time that he made those comments, because we were all looking, going, but you've got 2 players for every position, 2 quality players for every position. But he was right. He was clear in what he'd seen on the training pitch, and also not only are they young players, there's so many new players. bringing a lot of new players in to all of a sudden play together and have a cohesion that a Liverpool side has, where 75% of the squad have been there for many years and really understand the way the team plays. It's kind of no surprise, but you look at the quality of the players when that team sheet is put up and go, this team should be doing better in this run, but they'll probably still need to go in the transfer market, won't they, in the summer?
That'll do it. A few more players will definitely do it. But just, I mean, the point about the T word, time, and you're talking about the young players needing time and him needing time to get his messages across. Is he going to be given that time? If 3 wins in 10 stretches to 4 wins in 15, you would think that the pressure starts to mount a little bit.
It shouldn't, but it does. For today's managers, they'll feel that pressure, and I think he was trying to be as wise as he could with his comments earlier in the season because of that, because he knows he's going to be under pressure, but he wants the time to develop what he believes is the right way for the team to play. It's what the owners want. It's what the owners either want or demand from this season. What the end result ends up being for Chelsea will dictate. But I looked at Arteta when he came in, and I stuck by him because I could see that there was a change. I feel quite similar with Ange Postecoglou. I've seen such a change that when everybody's fit, you can see how it can work. And with Chelsea, I feel like I've seen enough performances under Maresca to go, I can see how it's going to work. It's then just whether you can have the patience or not.
So, for example, then, if, as someone who knows the game, Chelsea owners came to you at the end of the season and Chelsea had finished 4th and won the Conference League, would that be enough from your perspective?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it should.
Do you think it will be enough from theirs, I guess, is a different question.
Well, yeah, exactly, that'll be a different question. But yes, I do. To bring in so many new players and a new manager and to see a genuine improvement and come away with something at the end of the season, if you can't keep your job after that, I'm not quite sure where we are. I know Chelsea want the top prizes, but I'm not quite sure where we are if that would be the case.
Just a word on Brighton. I don't know if there's a prize for the most unpredictable team in the Premier League, but I think they'd certainly be the strong favourites in that category because you're never quite sure what to expect from them. But again, when the draw is made, you wouldn't want Brighton away in the next round because they can be a very dangerous team.
Yeah, they can. Again, I've watched them 3 or 4 times in the last 3 or 4 months, and they've been very different every time I've watched them. They can show 30, 40 minutes of complete control of a game, cutting through teams, right from the back. Lewis Dunk starting it off, piercing through midfield. Quality players that they have, as Wolves just about have a chat. It's a great block. In terms of playing through, the electric pace and trickery that they have on the wings, when Welbeck's fit leading the line, you can see why they've done well this season. But there's something, it's really hard to put my finger on exactly what it is, whether it is missing chances in games when they're on top and maybe having then a slightly weak underbelly in terms of defensively, again with young players, which is the way their scouting works. I don't necessarily see this real connection between the manager and the players yet. When you're there live and you watch him on the sideline and then you watch him when he greets the players at half-time and on the pitch afterwards, I'm yet to really think there's a genuine connection there yet. But again, still relatively new in terms of the time he's been there.